Erica, that's for you. Maybe Fitz has already
Oh yeah,
talked.
Erico Oliveira,
Another
another
diehard.
return viewer. Thanks, it's great to see you here. Maybe Fitz already talked about this. There some tangible measures you'd recommend towards managing stress? Working a corporate job feels like stress factors are out of my control. Um,
Oh,
so
buddy.
yeah,
Woo!
Garf understands where you're coming from. What I would say is, so obviously measurement of stress is important, and there are measurement tools out there. But in terms of you and you kind of understanding and you being able to manage that stress and also train like an athlete, what's also important is like the tools you have in your toolbox of how you perceive that stress, what that stress will do to you, and the alterations or the steps you'll take to kind of dissipate that stress or move in a separate direction away from it. So take for example, if you're an accountant, Erico, right? And you know that coming up to the end of April is the tax year is ending, and it's going to be stressful. So say you have a time like this once a quarter or once every 6 months, you know it's going to be stressful. You know you might be kind of preemptively getting worried or preemptively setting things up, uh, where you know training is going to take a back seat. You know you mightn't sleep as much. You know you mightn't see friends or family as much. The skills you might acquire, such as like a framing exercise you might do when you leave work, which kind of might set a boundary. There's loads of really good stuff in framing out there. Framing might be a really good tool in that time. Also, something as simple as journaling, or something as simple as like a pre bedtime routine. It may not necessarily be something like mindfulness or meditation, but just having a number of steps you would complete at the same time each night can be really, really beneficial in those cases. The problem here is you mightn't always be able to preempt when this stress pops up, and that's why you need to have a kind of plethora, or you need to have a number of different things that could help you deal with stress. Like dealing with stress might be you take a vacation day once every 3 weeks for those busy few months when you're there, and that vacation day is literally just you unwinding. But if it's not preemptive stress, that's why you need the framing exercise or a mindfulness exercise or a nature intervention that can help you immediately at that time. So there is a number of things. So it's not just about measuring the stress itself. Like people often look for the something like a wearable tracker to give them a measure of stress. So like a heart rate measure or variability measure, but that's a measure of physiological stress. And although psychological stress does impact in and they're both interwoven, I wouldn't be particularly worried about measuring the stress acutely at that point. I'd be more worried about patterning that stress and trying to figure out when it does occur and when it doesn't occur, and then giving you a number of things to work on, if you know a time or if a stressful time is coming up. So hopefully that did help you.
I've got two practical recommendations in regards to dealing with stress from a corporate job, and one existential, but probably the most important one. First one is, and this was told to me by one of the smartest people I've ever met in terms of just like IQ, like a genius, but also a man who loves to drink a few pints of Guinness, so you can get an idea of who he is. He's from West Cork, very practical, very, very, very smart. And he said to me, you just have to protect yourself from caring. So you, like Fitz is talking about framing there, you've got to put it in perspective on what it is you're caring about, how relevant that is to your life reality. Something that helped me a lot was just realizing that you've got to protect yourself from caring about this. It's not to say don't do your job to a good caliber, and don't be ambitious, don't do the things you need to do, but you have to protect yourself from caring about this to an extent where it is detrimental to your mental health. That's really important. The other one is when you leave work, you need to mentally leave work as well. You need to, once you check out, you need to be checked out fully and just forget about it. No good comes of thinking about stuff. Some people can do this very well. Me, one of those. Some people are not able to do that. Some people just can't stop thinking about it. Some people like me, when I swiped out of the gate, my brain eradicated everything to do with work, and that was that. And you will find yourself being in a much happier position. Finally, though, the last point is from kind of an existential kind of position, from something that's a little bit more, I think is more important than the first two. The first two are like short-term plugs. ultimately you need to do something better. You need to do something more important for yourself. I know people like to talk about good quality jobs and being good benefits, good wages, good work environment, but I don't think it's enough as a person. You've only one life. You can't waste it doing a job that makes money for no reason. Like, you have to be better. Do better for yourself. You owe it to yourself, Don't stop advocating for yourself. You've got to go do something more important than working a corporate job if that's not what you truly want to do. For most people, and a lot of people, it's not. It might take years to figure this out, but you've got to make a better effort and not do something just because it feels like something you need to do or should be doing. You've got to go be better and do something, ultimately. And it's something that's not talked about a lot. I know you're laughing, but that's how Fitz deals with stuff like that. But but it's true, though, honestly, Erico. Like, if put it in perspective, you'll be old before you know it. You'll be 60 odd and you'll wonder, what the fuck did I do, So that's not to say you should pick something easy. But you need to go do something. It could be very, very difficult what it is you go to do, So have a look at what you're doing and where you're going. Sometimes people are very afraid of leaving. Sometimes they're very afraid of change. Loads of people are like this. They'll stay in a job they don't really like for fear of the other job being worse, or for fear of the other job being something that is being the new person. So people hate that, being the new person for 6 months and being afraid of changing and stuff, because change is very difficult and it's scary, and as humans you don't want change because typically change means adapting to a new environment and dealing with new problems, and no one really wants to do that. Most people aren't psychopaths, so some people like change, but a lot of people are just like, oh, the fuck, starting a new job, who do I sit with at lunch? Like, the dream job might be something totally different, so there's so much to this. But I'd say ultimately, if you can leave and do something else, you owe it to yourself, Erico, to do better. Do better.
Do better.